This is it. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Seward City Council. It is Monday, August 28th. It's 7 p.m. And I've asked the chief to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll? Too many chairs here.
Okay, roll call. Barnwell.
Here.
Dumas is excused. Calhoun is excused. Osenga is excused. Finch. Here. Wells.
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We are at citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. We have a number for public hearing. If you have signed in, you'll get the first shot, and we'll also consider people in the hall, so don't worry. You'll get 3 minutes to speak, and there's 36 minutes total for this. Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone signed in?
We do. There are 5 people signed in. First is Karen Cooper.
And what we'll need to have you do, if you're not familiar, is give your name and if you live inside or outside the city limits.
Hello, my name is Karen Cooper McLaughlin, inside city limits. I'm just here on behalf of the chamber. I'm the events coordinator there, and I wanted to say thank you to the community of Seward, specifically Norm, Tony, and everyone at the Harbor Masters for helping with the Salmon Derby. It was a huge success. We had an overall champion of Timothy Kane with 13.98 pounds, and the youth champion was Jensen Eckelman with 10.72 pounds, and then the women's heaviest was Trudy Gitlin with 11.90 pounds. And then just a couple stats. So there's 1,345 registered anglers that participated. There was 1,586 silver salmon weighed. We got 9,589.16 pounds of salmon turned in. And then the buybacks were really good. We had Side Pots and Alaska Airlines entries. Both of those did really well. Lots of people walked away with some extra cash, which is always fun. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you to everyone who volunteered their time. We couldn't do it without you. There was 8 derby days, 3 shifts per day, 3 volunteers per shift, which equals about 60 volunteers total. So we just couldn't do it without you guys. And then also wanted to say thank you to everyone who participated at the Silver Ball. We sold 113 tickets, 106 people attended, and the swankiest silver goes to Monica Hinders and Carrie Lunardi. So thanks to them for dressing up and coming out to have some fun. And yeah, thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Kevin Denham.
Kevin Dunham, outside the city limits. I just would like to state that I made a misstatement the last time I testified here. I said that Chugach Electric owned part of the battery that's in Soldotna. That belongs completely to Homer Electric. Chugach and Matanuska Electric are building a battery in central Anchorage. Just wanted to set that straight since I said something wrong. And I appreciate coming to these meetings, and I've been learning quite a bit about the city. And one thing that really struck me last week was that you can't do rape kits here in Seward. And I was really shocked to actually hear that. And I would say with the police department, with over 20 individuals, that should be part of your mandatory training. And you should be able to have a working relationship with the hospital so that people would not have to drive all the way to Soldotna to get a rape kit looked at. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Okay, I'm going to take a break just for a second. And Chris, the names are on seats. The Japanese exchange group is here, so they're going to be seated. Huh? Delegation is here. and we'll let them get seated. While that's happening, you could tell us who's next to speak.
Okay, next on the list is Tim McDonald.
Oh, sure. And welcome again. Well, we have something coming after this. Okay, come on everyone.
Tim McDonald's Inside City Limits. I appreciate guys like Kevin speaking up for all kinds of different things is important, and I think as Sewardites, we're all concerned with security right now, as is the whole country is and whatnot. And, you know, I just look at it and what if the city had fully backed alternative energy 20 years ago? You know, just thinking rhetorically. Where we'd be now, you know, I mean, they had a windmill at Avtech out there, or whatever it's called now, across from there and whatnot. Back in the 70s, there was a business group that did a wind study up behind Mount Marathon, out of sight, out of hearing, zero, very low environmental impact, and they were crazy about it. It was great numbers, and they actually did the test, you know, put the wind machines up and stuff. So I mean, Seward has a lot of potential as far as renewable energy, wave energy. They're really breaking out in that right now. And, you know, I know the city is not interested in running the utilities anymore. That's clear. Whatever the history is, the city has a problem with the management and wishes to divest itself. I'm sure there's financial and thing, but why couldn't we start over and form a co-op of the citizens, the 800 or the 1,800 account holders that pay into the Seward utility and paid for it many times over? You know, and we could buy it for you for the prescribed $25 million. Maybe give us 25 years to pay it. We pay you 2% interest only till then, and then you get a balloon payment. In the meantime, you've got a bondable $25 million bond on it. You know, why couldn't we do it? Then you could inadvertently back us on the renewable energy push, what the city has never been able to do. And I understand it. It's just nobody can look beyond the next election or the next, you know, funding cycle or whatever. But we've got to, this is about security. It's not about, you know, what's best for the city. This is about what's best for all those 1,800 users of the utility. And what everybody wants is security. We should be selling energy, and our rate should be extremely low, and we can't do that under the current circumstances. So I put it to you to consider a co-op of the users and the city selling it to them under favorable terms to do it instead of selling it to one of the utilities, which doesn't change anything and just means our rates will go up. Thank you very much for considering this.
Thank you, Tim. Mr. Clerk, who do we have next?
Kuno Hassan? Hanson?
We'll need your name and if you're inside or outside the city limits.
I'm Kuno Hanson. I'm outside the city limits, ratepayer here in Seward. Come to speak on the sale of the utility to HEA. Our utilities infrastructure is better shape than it's ever been. And this can be attributed to aggressive tree trimming, numerous improvements to equipment, transmission and distribution lines, along with major improvements to our emergency generation facilities, which are very important to the community. The new warehouse facility is also a plus. And the commitment to the realization that fall-down maintenance is no longer the way to go on a utility. We need to be committed to that. What I'm trying to say here is We've come a long ways in the last decade or so. Further, when we complete the transition from 69,000 to 115, we'll have the capacity for increased revenue, which will be enormous to the city's coffers as it stands. That's part of the master plan for the community as far as I'm hearing. So, in short, why would we go to the lengths to gold plate our system just to turn it around and sell it for a song to an entity that has no vested interest in this community? I don't believe that we should sell it at all. So, as far as the council is concerned, you made your agenda perfectly clear, that being through your proposal to change your charter to a 50-50 split. When you had the opportunity to do the right thing and let everybody that has a meter vote on what's going on here with our utility. Why would you choose this for our ratepayers? I just hope that your constituents can see through this with a no vote on this proposal. And if you are compelled at this juncture to go ahead and sell it, you need to give Chugats another shot at it. We are tied to them. And they've been a very good partner of ours for a very long time. Their holdings vastly greater than that of HEA's, and they will be able to wheel power way cheaper than HEA ever could. That's to the advantage of our consumers, especially those that are struggling right now for paying their bills. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Micah Van Buskirk.
Hello, Micah Van Buskirk, Inside City Limits. I'm here tonight to request that you add the recreation facility to your legislative priorities that's on your agenda later tonight. It's been a community priority for decades. It's been on the comprehensive plan for as long as I can find documents of the comprehensive plan. It was on the list of recommendations from Port and Commerce. Every single item from the Port and Commerce recommendations to City Council to go on your priority list was added except for the recreation facility. And I think you've got a really awesome group at Port and Commerce, and you should consider adding that as they recommended. We have a feasibility study that the city spent $95,000 working on last year. I was told last year when I'm talking to Jeanette about this project, why it couldn't be on your legislative priority list, and she said, well, we didn't have a plan yet. We didn't have it in writing, and now we do. So I really hope that we can add it to the legislative priority list. Not to be prioritized over the public works facility or even the public safety facility, but I do think it would be important to keep it on the list. This is not something that needs to happen right away. We need to do some community planning, maybe in the next couple of years, but we have a plan. Whether or not it's something it ends up being, this particular design needs to be decided by the community, but to keep it on our legislative priority list so that our state government and our federal government can see it in case a pot of money comes open. There's grants being talked about for healthy communities, and that money is out there, especially post-COVID, and we might be able to connect some dots and make this happen for our community. Then my second public comment, and this may be far-fetched, but there's a ton of money in Alaska coming through for the Alaska Long Trail, for the original Iditarod Trail, which starts at the Sea Life Center. And I'd love to see a way, as I see the airport on the agenda again, to connect our beautiful waterfront here to our beautiful waterfront over there. And I know we've got the airport, but I do know the Alaska Coastal Trail goes right in front of their airport. We could fence the airport, make the airport secure, and allow pedestrians to walk along that amazingly beautiful beach with unparalleled scenery and sunshine. And it's just a dream of mine that we could have a trail that connects over to the Iditarod Trail along that waterfront. And then as you've got so many changes happening within the city, new city manager, department heads, and council even, I would like to recommend that big decisions on selling property, vision items for our town be postponed until we can get some of this new staffing in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone else?
No one else has signed in.
Okay, is there anyone in the room that would like to, come on up, Bruce. And then I'll ask also in the hallway. Bruce has raised his hand, but I'll give people in the hallway too. Did you sign up?
Bruce Jaffa, outside city limits, Madam Mayor, Manager, Council, guests. I'd just like to start off by welcoming our guest from Japan. I had the opportunity to travel through Japan from Tokyo to Miyagawa, about 1,100 miles on every kind of train they had. I came back a better person. I came back with lessons of what I saw the country do. And when we talk about challenges, I'm not going to talk about the airport too much tonight, but talk about challenges to address the Resurrection River in Japan. They not only know how to do it, but they have done that. They've improved the entire area to the betterment of the population. They're great people, and it's a kind of a culture we could aspire to. I spent earlier today outside in the rain at home. I got soaking wet, but I came and dried off. I wanted to come and talk to you tonight. I missed the last meeting. I sent some a missive that I hope wasn't taken wrong, but it had some serious thoughts on it. I would first like to say we have some good news from the Heat Loop Ad Hoc Committee. We've been tentatively, and I think very strongly, suggested that we've won the award of Phase 1 of the Heat Loop grant from the Department of Energy, which will qualify us to work for a year to come up with engineering expertise to improve the system, and then move into Phase 2. We'd be eligible for Phase 2. The city has a new finance director, a soon-to-be seated city manager, along with an engaged electric heat loop group. All these are positive things. Seward has a lot of things going on. I think we're well positioned to look at some of the challenges we have and meet them. Action Memo 2023-013 has just been talked about. It had to do, and I'm going to shorten this because my time is almost up, but the PACAB committee reviewed a list of priorities. We passed a resolution for 13 priorities that included the recreation center after we had received both public comment and testimony. That somehow did not get on the final list to council. The harbor master's office did. I think that's a good addition, but I would suggest that you amend and add the rec center to your priority list for a total of 14. There's a lot of need for a recreational facility in Seward. How it's used, who pays for it, where it goes, all those things are yet to be determined, but keeping it in our focus is tremendously important. I enjoy motorsports, I enjoy shooting, but not everybody else does those, so we need someplace for them.
Thank you, Bruce. Anyone else in the room wanting to speak at this point? Hank, come on up. We just need your name and inside or outside, and then we'll get out in the hallway.
Hank West, outside of city limits. I'm just here to welcome the Obihiro over there. I know we're doing a vote or to decide or how that works, but I hope that we can all get a chance to go there, because I've been to Obihiro and it's a wonderful place, and I feel like we can learn from whoever gets to go there. The more the merrier. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Hank. Anyone else? Come on in. Gotta finish this first.
Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I wanted to echo what Micah was saying. She's always an advocate for the youth in Seward, so I'm like her cheerleader. And the youth in Seward is one reason why I'm following up on this. Over a year ago, I was speaking that, it already takes so long to get rape kits back, over a year, the results, and that you couldn't get rape kits in Seward, and you still can't, but now you're asked if you can find a ride up there yourself to Kenai or to Anchorage, and this is wrong. I think this is not a ball being dropped by any organization, and nobody means to be heartless about this, but we all need to step up to bat on this and do something. I think a meeting between troopers, cops, Seward Prevention Coalition, Seaview, Glacier Family, all the hospitals and all the clinics in town needs to happen. Figure out why and see what we can do. And to not put all the pressure on the hospital. Ask them what we could do to help them to get this done in Seward, and at least in the meantime, to be able to provide transportation somehow. Many things can go wrong on that road. Family members are upset. There's just many reasons this is wrong. So there have been a few improvements by talking to the people at STAR. You can now track your own rape kit by a barcode given to you by the SART nurse. And even with that progress, though, it still takes up to a year. And that's an improvement, sadly. Used to be 5. So we really need to do something. And so to see if this is just a Seward problem or what other people are doing, I did some research and called and explained this is not an emergency, I'm not in danger, but can a person get a rape kit done? Do you have a SART team in your town? I received so many yeses from towns even smaller than us, starting with Juneau and Anchorage, which are larger, Fairbanks. Some I can't pronounce, Wasilla, especially when I'm nervous, Sitka, Ketchikan, Bethel, Cordova, Valdez. I was giving other, Petersburg, places that are really isolated. So Seward is behind the ball on this, or not, they need to do better. So looking forward to some answers or some help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Come on.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Koster. I live inside the city limits, and I wanted to echo what Hank had to say in welcoming the Japanese delegation, and wanted to just represent some of us who are here who've applied to travel to Japan. Super excited to hear if I'm going to be able to go. I obviously have applied, and both of my children got to participate in the exchange and came back just raving about their experiences. So I'm a little jealous, and I hope that I can experience that. I know Mary Lynn has also applied, and some other folks here. So just wanted to say thank you to Obihiro and to the gang here, and thank you to City Council.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to, is there anyone in the hall that wants to speak in this 3-minute time? No? Anyone else in here? Okay, I'll close this portion then, and that moves us to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. What I need is a motion and a second, please, to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. Are there any changes that anyone wants to make on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I think we're ready to vote on this.
Okay, voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, your agenda and consent agenda have been approved. And approved on the consent agenda are the August 14th, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes, the introduction of ordinance 2023-020, amending Seward City Code Title 12, building and construction as part of the city's recodification project, and resolution 2023-101, authorizing the city manager to approve the emergency repair of the fire department water main line in the amount of $39,400 and appropriating funds.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the fun part of tonight, the proclamation and meeting with the delegation from Ohio. Chris, Mr. Interpreter Chris, could you have them come up and stand up here, please? And maybe you could join them because there will be some translating involved. And I'll stay here, but I'll do this from back here, and if they can just, so people can see them. We want the audience and everything to see them. Thank you. And once everyone is, if there's a way of getting you all up here, I'm not sure yet. If you turn around, we want the people to see you first, okay?
Face this way.
Yeah.
Turn around.
We have the TV, and then
Yeah.
everyone can see you,
Yeah.
and I'll stand back here. And I have a couple of things. First, I just want to once again welcome you all. You've been welcomed by me a few times, and I wanted to especially say that we enjoyed sharing so much with you over these past few days.
改めて皆さんをスワード氏には歓迎の言葉を申し上げます。何回も会ったことがありましたけど、いつも通りにようこそ。
Okay, and I particularly enjoyed having you all there at our Founders Day celebration today, so you could hear me play the music, and and you got to meet Dan Seavey, the musher.
特に今日、本日の120周年、イベントでは、私の、ピアノ、パンプオーガンの演奏を、聴いていただいて楽しかったです。そして、ダン・シービーというそのアリタロードの始めた人にも会うことができて、とても良かったと思います。
And we also shared meals together, and we'll hear from the delegation in a moment.
そして一緒に食事もして楽しかったです。これからは、その、議長からの言葉があります。
But now I have a proclamation to read, and when I give this to you, it is in Japanese also, so...
I printed out a copy for everyone if you want me to hand them out.
Oh, yeah, I just have an, here, just the one, I'll give it after I read it for the people, okay? So, whereas on November 20th, 1967, the city of Seward passed a resolution to declare Ohairo, Japan as its sister city.
今から、市長が、宣言を申し上げます。条件1967年11月20日にスワード氏は、日本の帯広市との姉妹都市締結、決議案を、可決した。
And whereas in March 1968, this sister city relationship was officially recognized by Sister Cities International.
上皇1968年3月に両市の姉妹都市関係は全米国際姉妹都市協会に認定された。
And whereas since 1967, both communities have participated in many cultural exchanges which have deepened the relationship between our cities and our citizens.
上皇1967年以降、両市と両市の市民の関係を深めるさまざまな国際親善交流活動を行ってきた。
And whereas since 1973, our communities have sponsored annual student exchange involving high school students to experience each other's culture, lifestyles, and families.
上皇1973年から両市が互いの文化や生活や家庭を体験するために高校生相互派遣事業を開催した。
And whereas in August 2023, the city of Seward welcomed 4 students from Ohairo for the 2023 student exchange.
上皇2023年8月にスワード市は2023年度高校生相互派遣事業として4名の帯広高校生を受け入れた。
And whereas in August 2023, the city of Seward welcomed the 11 members of the adult delegation from Obihiro for the 55th anniversary of our sister city relationship.
上皇2023年8月にスワード市は国際姉妹都市締結55周年記念事業として11名の帯広親善訪問団を受け入れたとのこと。
And whereas in October 2023, Obihiro, Japan will welcome the City of Seward adult delegation.
上皇2023年10月に帯広市はスワード親善訪問団を受け入れる。
Now, therefore, I, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby proclaim the week of August 28, 2023, to be Seward Obihiro's Sister City Appreciation Week, dated this 28th day of August 2023, signed by myself.
よって私、アラスカ州スワード市長、スー・マクルワーは2023年8月28日の週間をスワード市帯広市姉妹都市感謝週間としてここで宣言する。2023年8月28日、アラスカ州スワード市、スワード市長スー・マクルワー。
I'd like to give this to the chairman and have him, he has a speech, I believe, to give to us.
これは、今日の宣言の本部
And we have a copy too.
So next the speech from the, would you like all of them to stand here? Who does it? Or will they sit down and he stands?
Either way, it's however you choose. But he should come up to give his speech up here so he can face everyone. Yeah, just up here. Yeah, and then, yeah, I'd have him face out. I'll be right here behind you. It's okay. Oh, I think he'll hear. The speech will be translated. Okay?
Good evening, everyone. 皆さん方、こんばんは。スワード市国際姉妹都市締結55周年記念訪問団団長で、帯広市議会議長の横山明美です。本日はこのような厳粛な場で挨拶をさせていただきまして、誠にありがとうございます。
Good evening, everyone. My name is Akemi Yokoyama. I am the leader of the Sister City 55th Anniversary Delegation Group Leader and Chairman of the Obihiro City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here at this honorary setting during Seward City Council meeting.
スワード市と帯広市が姉妹都市を締結してから今年で55周年を迎えました。これまで高校生の相互派遣やお互いの町へのイベントの市長賞の提供などさまざまな交流を続け、姉妹都市の絆を深めてまいりました。
This year, we welcome the 55th anniversary of the beginning of our sister city relationship. Since that time, our cities have deepened our bonds of sisterhood through numerous cultural exchange programs, such as the high school student exchange program and the presentation of Mayor's Awards at each of our respective events.
これもひとえにここにいらっしゃる皆様方をはじめとした両市民の熱意とご尽力の賜物に他にならないと心から感謝を申し上げる次第です。
So all of this is nothing less than the results of the enthusiasm and great efforts of the citizens of our cities and those present here today. To everyone, I would like to express my deepest gratitude.
また今回の55周年を記念した相互派遣を通じて両市の交流と絆がさらに深まることを期待し、記念品を用意いたしました。
I would like to present a gift to you, the people of Seward, to express our hopes of a deeper relationship between our cities through this 55th anniversary delegation exchange.
この漢字は道、道と読みます。この漢字はいろいろな言葉に使われます。
So this character in Japanese is read as michi or do, and it means road, path, or way, and it has a number of different figurative meanings.
通行するための道。
So for example, a literal or figurative road or path that people travel across.
善悪をわきまえて正しい行動をとる習慣の人としての道。
A second meaning is discerning between right and wrong and taking the right path, or a way of life.
日本文化など専門分野を極めていくこと、書道、華道、茶道、武道など。
So the third interpretation is, in Japanese culture, this character is used to represent mastering a specific art, such as shodo, which means calligraphy or the way of writing, kado, which means flower arrangement or the way of the flower, sado, which is tea ceremony or the way of tea, and budo, which is martial arts or the way of the warrior.
諏訪戸市と帯広市の先人たちが55年前から姉妹都市という道をつないでくれたおかげで、今日まで交流を重ねてこられました。
Thanks to the Michi founded by the people of Seward and Obihiro 55 years ago, we are here today and can look back on all the exchange we've had over the years.
私たちもこの道を次世代につないでいき、これからも姉妹都市の絆を深めていけるように思いを込め、この文字をお送りいたします。
Through this gift, we express our devotion to continue developing the Michi connecting us through our deep sisterly bonds and guiding them to future generations. Would you like to come to the front?
I have to go out.
Yeah.
We can't get it. Yes, got it.
We'll roll it up for you and pass it to you.
Would you, and then we'll find a nice place to hang it in here.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation.
So, happy
That was wonderful. The delegation will be staying for a while. I don't know how long. Told them they didn't have to stay through the whole thing. It's been a really good few days. The next item is selecting the citizens to join the delegation to travel. We have applications total from 10, and I would like to move right now that we approve all 10 going to Japan with the proviso that they are paying their own way and that they agree with that.
Madam Mayor, was that including the late on? I want to make sure.
Yes, yes, that's the 10th. And our clerk had checked with the people over there, and it would be okay. There are some arrangements they need to talk, so if all 10, so my motion is to accept all 10 as delegates.
I'll second.
A second?
Yep.
Okay, we should vote on that, I believe, okay?
Okay, ready to vote?
Yes.
So, voting to approve the 10 citizen applications to go to Obihiro, Japan. Finch,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that motion has passed.
Okay, so all of you get to go, and I wanted to say that before you came up to, but, and in the packet are the applications, and we're sending some wonderful people over there, so I think this is really great. Okay, so we have next the city manager's report. You'll find that on page 25.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You have my report in there. I just want to touch on a couple things. One is, I got a call, it was actually for Jeanette, but she's no longer here, and I took the call. I called the gentleman. He's from Kenai Aviation. So we're going to have a meeting with him on September 15th when CAT starts. We already set the meeting. And what it is he's looking at bringing his service to Seward. To Seward to Kenai, Seward to Anchorage, flights all summer. He's talking about starting next year. And he has been talking with Joy at the airport, and also has this thing designed to bring the flight level down to 500 feet. If I'm wrong, Bruce will correct me. So, but it's a great thing for Seward because it's going to start us a service for like we used to have when the area was here. So we'll have flights to Anchorage and Kenai or wherever. And I also explained to him about the new clinic going in and how he could be the hub for all these data villages around town, around the Prince William Sound. They can get flown in for the new clinic. So, and it gets more flights into our airport, which would help us move forward on things there. On that, I also have one more thing. I would like to have the chief come up and explain to you about this rape kit situation.
Oh, okay. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you, City Manager Regis. Just want to address that so you guys understand what the situation is here in Seward. As far as the police department goes, we have people that are trained to do these sexual assault kits. And when we talk about a sexual assault kit, there's actually two. You have a suspect kit and you have a victim kit. The suspect kit is what we typically do, and we do them now here in Seward. The victim kit is a little bit different. The victim kit requires a specifically trained nurse at the hospital or a clinic or whatever, and some very expensive and specific equipment that comes with that. And I can tell you, in my 21 years of working here, there's been multiple attempts and some success with bringing in that equipment and certified nurses, but it seems like Seward hasn't been able to retain those nurses. So I know that this comes up fairly often, and there's continuing efforts made to get that service established here, but at this time we just don't have that service, and that's why the victims are going over to Kenai typically and being taken care of there. So I just wanted to clear that up so everybody understands what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, Madam Mayor, Rob wanted to speak on one other item one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Just want to give a brief update on our infrastructure project and budget. To date, we have committed for the infrastructure work through resolutions and POs, $12.9 million at this point. I'm going to have Project Manager Brian Thrall is going to come up in just a moment, and he's going to give an update on where we are with the actual work. In 2024, we're expecting to spend another $1.5 million for the work to be complete then. Most of that will go to the Lawing substation near Moose Pass. This is going to put our budget around $14.5 million. That will complete all of Nash Road, and it will finish the refurbishment of the Fort Raymond and the Lawing substations. The original budget that we set for this work back in 2021 was $10.4 million. And so when we updated our projections to the council several months ago, We estimated that we would end up somewhere between 14 and 15 million to complete this work, and that is where we're expecting to land at this point. So, Brian?
Thank you.
Good evening. So, as you may have noticed, Phase 1 has been completed. Fort Ray transmission line has also been completed. Despite some challenges and challenges in the weather, it was completed, I believe, on schedule, and I think it's a very robust build too. It's definitely way sturdier than it was originally, even without the rod. It should last a very long time. Fort Raymond substation is kind of at a standstill right now. EPS is waiting on parts. One of our transformers was damaged during transportation, so I don't know what the result is going to be of that. I believe it was sent back to the factory, and we're waiting to hear back on how they're going to handle that. As far as other projects around town, I better touch on Phase 2. Phase 2, so we're waiting on insulators, so we're waiting on materials for that, so that wasn't going to be completed this year anyway. We're looking at late spring for that. Sturgeon might start replacing poles that are in the swampy areas. Late winter, early spring, but I'd say the bulk of the work won't be completed until, I'd say, June. And we're also hoping that is also completed before the 4th of July substation to make, when we bring that substation down, it'll make the system more reliable. Mainly cutting out the section on Old Nash, which is really old, and we're planning on feeding it with distribution across the bay. So we have an engineer actually engineering to upgrade the size of the wire right now. And the ultimate goal is be able to connect the two substations with the larger wire, 336, which is the largest wire on our system, but we'll use that for transmission, but we'll also be using it for distribution. With that capability, it'll link our two substations, or be able to through distribution, so it just gives us more options for outage situations or picking up, just transferring the load around. It gives a lot of different options. I don't know if we'll be able to run 336 the entire way on Phase 2 on the distribution. It kind of depends on when the engineer comes back with her work, how many of the poles we have to be replaced. We're already planning on replacing about 14 of them, so that section definitely makes sense to go ahead and do the upgraded wire on the distribution, because they already have to handle the wire anyway, and be able to take old Nash out of the loop to feed across the bay while we're working on that substation. So depending on how many poles she wants us to replace will depend on if we actually follow through with that wire the whole way or not. Hopefully we can. Other projects around town, our other big one that the crew is working on is the Hilltop project up by Doorway. All the conduit is in the ground now, all the pads are set, and we're looking at pulling wire probably next week. So, any
That's
questions?
impressive. Any questions for Brian? Yeah, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
I have a few questions, and if that's okay?
Oh,
Should
yeah.
I ask them in order, or?
Ask them in order.
I'll ask them in order, and then if you need me to repeat the questions,
Sure.
I can, okay? So, first question, and you can answer this one right away, is how long have you been with the utility?
Boy, I don't really know. I'd say over 10 years. I'd have to think about that one. A while. I've seen a lot in the time I've been here.
Thank you. Do you have any idea why the utility let so many years pass before it began clearing its transmission right away near Moose Pass and taking steps to replace the transmission infrastructure on Nash Road? I had previously asked our current GM, but he said he hadn't been here long enough to be able to answer that.
As far as the tree clearing, is that like all the transmission? Well, it was cleared, a lot of it, but it was all the easy places that were easy to get to. The stuff that we could get equipment up there, and I haven't seen any tree contractors since I've been here, and they really specialize in being able to climb the trees and get the ones that are really close to the line that we're just not, I mean, could we climb trees? Probably, but I mean, it's just not really our scope of work. So it had been cleared, it's just all the easy parts were clear.
Okay. Would you say the right-of-ways near Moose Pass and the poor condition of the Nash Road infrastructure were a growing safety and reliability concern with each passing year?
Yeah, and something that I brought up every year, I definitely targeted areas since I've been here to get up on the transmission line. We worked with Tel-Alaska one year while they were putting their fiber in, they paid for half the clearing. And that actually, the part that AK Tree Service is working on right now, I was planning on doing that about 4 or 5, whenever it happened with Tel-Alaska with the fiber, I was planning on doing that 4 or 5 years ago, but since we had a partner in clearing it and helping subsidize the work, that took priority, so.
Would you say that the current utility, GM, cares about the reliability of the system and the service utility provides to customers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any professional opinion on the city of Seward having the ability to have someone on a board, participate in the board of directors, such as with either Chugach or with the HEA? Do you see that being a priority or a positive?
On the board, in what capacity? On what board?
Well, if I understand correctly, both utilities have board members that help direct the utility, correct?
I'm not really aware of how they're set up.
Okay, so, well, they are. That was one of the things during the purchase negotiations.
Oh, yeah, okay, I understand now, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So would you say that having a Seward representative would be positive on either utility for the city of Seward?
If we were purchased by one of them, absolutely.
Absolutely. Are you aware of how much money entities and individuals spend to get someone elected to the Chugach board?
I have no idea.
Are you aware that outside money from California, Oregon, Washington funds those goals for Chugach to get people elected to that board?
Nope, wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Are you aware that HEA offered to create a new zone specifically for the ratepayers in the Seward area so that we could have someone directly on the board?
That's what I heard.
Okay. How much do you think it would cost if Chugach was to purchase our utility? How much do you think it would cost for the citizens of Seward to get someone elected so that we could participate in the future for our area?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And as far as the Nash Road, that was actually, that was engineered 7 years ago, too. So it's been on the horizon for a while, just not executed.
It's not executed. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
City manager, do you have other
I don't have anything else. Any other questions? Any other questions for us?
for the city manager? No? Okay. I'm going to just break for a moment. You could bring the gift and put it up here if you wanted before you, I know you're wondering what to do with it. You could just lay it right there for now, okay? Thank you. They had to package it again, and I know he was wondering what to do with it. Okay, that is the city manager report. Are we okay to move into public hearings, or do we need a 5-minute break, guys? 5-minute break? Break? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and, well, 6. We'll be back, 5-minute break. We'll be back.
Okay, we are back on the air.
Okay, I'll reconvene this council meeting. It's 8 PM. And during the break, the Japanese, the Hero delegation left, and now we've got other people in here. It's kind of the revolving group of people tonight. We're at the point now of public hearings, and we have actually 4 tonight. So the first public hearing is on Resolution 2023-096, and I'd ask the clerk to please read this in for the record, please.
Resolution 2023-096, authorizing the city manager to enter into a consent assignment to Breeze Inn LLC to a lease agreement L04-096 with Uri Mindenbergs for Lot 3B, Block 1, Marina Subdivision, City of Seward, Kenai Peninsula Borough, Plat 2005-8, Seward Recording District, 3rd Judicial District, State of Alaska, to amend Article 3 and extend the term of the lease for 18 years and to add 2 5-year options to extend.
Thank you, and you'll find this on page 130 of the packet if you have the packet. I need a motion to approve and a second, please.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So Yuri requested that he wants to assign the lease to, it would be called Breeze Inn LLC, which is for individuals that set up this LLC. And working with the attorney, we went through everything and all the signatures and everything were all signed. And they were in agreement for what we have, to add to the lease. Because we had the one thing, that 3.8, I believe, is not, but now it's in the lease, and that's the CPI adjustment every year, which we do with all our leases. So I just want to throw that out there and administration wish you would approve the lease.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open the public hearing now on Resolution 2023-096. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed in?
There are 4 people signed in. Okay. First on the list is Colby Lawrence.
Okay, and I'll tell you about public hearings. You get, it's not here now, you get 5 minutes to speak, and it's the usual, you give your name and if you're inside or outside the city limits, okay? And we'll go in order from there, and then others can speak if they didn't sign up.
Great. Colby Lawrence, outside city limits. Thank you for taking the time this evening. I'd like to say on behalf of myself and the 3 other partners that are going to be involved in this, my wife, Nicole, Duke Marolf, and Pamela Eiding, that we're very excited about this new venture. The Breeze Inn has been part of all of our lives I've been in Seward for over 20 years, and so I've been eating and partaking there for a lot of years. It has a great history in Seward, and we have no plans to change any of the operation. All 4 of us have worked in the tourism and hospitality business throughout our time here in Seward, and we want to see the Breeze continue to be a place for tourists and locals alike. And I think that's one of the great things about the Breeze is it's always open. The restaurant, the hotel, and we have no plans on changing anything like that. We're going to keep it open year-round. We had the pleasure of meeting the management team at the Breeze a few months ago, and they all are great people. We plan to keep the team in place and just continue to operate a very successful business that Mr. Mindenbergs, or the Mindenbergs family, has done in the past. So we just ask that the council will vote yes to the lease assignment and extension.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Callie Bacon.
Callie Bacon, inside city limits. I'm an associate broker at Seward Properties, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Uri and Susan Mindenbergs. I've represented the Mindenbergs for over 1.5 years on their listing of the Breeze Inn property. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the approval of Resolution 2023-096. Please vote tonight to approve the lease assignment for the Breeze Inn to Breeze Inn LLC. The transaction is progressing smoothly, and we anticipate recording in early 2024. Yes, these kinds of sales take a long time. It's true that after the property was relisted for sale this spring, there was interest from multiple prospective buyers. Let it be known that the only offer that met the Mindenbergs' needs came from the current buyers. The Mindenbergs are eager to see this sale move forward. Yuri Mindenberg has owned the Breeze Inn since the 1970s. That's over 45 years. He bought the property when he was in his 30s. Today, he's 83. It's time for Yuri to sell the Breeze. Yuri's career was as a general contractor. He literally built the Breeze as we know it today. When Yuri bought it, it was just an 18-room motel, no restaurant, no bar. Today, the hotel has 100 rooms. Take a moment to think about that. Seward was very different 45 years ago. Yuri played a major role in bringing tourism to Seward. The Breeze has been a long-term employer for many in this community. In speaking with members of the staff, I've learned that many of them have worked there for more than 10 years. What a legacy to have built. That's a legacy that these buyers are looking forward to honoring. On behalf of Yuri and Susan Mindenbergs, I ask for you to vote tonight to approve Resolution 2023-96. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Hank West.
Hank West, outside the city limits. I just kind of want to echo what Colby said, in that I'm a current employee at the Breeze, and I like the, on behalf of the staff there, I'd like to say like how excited we are for the way that where it's moving to, and I hope that you guys can vote yes on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And next,
Tim
Schroeder.
Schroyer.
Hi guys, Tim Schroyer, I live outside of city limits. Just here to ask the city to approve it. We're all super excited. A lot of the staff is, and I think it would be in great hands with these guys. So.
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? I lost count. Mr. Clerk.
No, that's all.
Okay.
Mayor Clerk.
Is there anyone in the audience wanting to speak? Come on up.
Tim McDonald, inside city limits. The Breeze Inn is an icon. I can remember it from when I was a kid living here. I don't know, I remember Yuri used to work there and run it himself. So, I mean, anything that carries on the tradition is a good thing, and these folks are all professionals. I'm sure they'll do a wonderful job. Of course, we're all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? Or, I don't know, do we have any people left in the hall? Okay.
They all moved in here.
They all moved in. Okay, I got to keep track. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay.
Nicole Lawrence, outside city limits. So I'm here this evening to ask for your support in approving Resolution 2023-96 regarding the lease assignment and extension for the Breeze Inn. The lease assignment approval would allow the lease with the city to transfer from Yuri Mindenbergs to the Breeze Inn LLC, an entity owned by myself, my husband, Pamela Eiding, and Duke Marolf. And they are our friends and our business partners, so we're all excited about that. The extension portion of the resolution is a prerequisite of our lender. They would like us to acquire the longest lease we can in order to satisfy the loan requirement, so that's an important part of this request. Though purchasing the Breeze Inn was never part of my plan for this year, my business partners and I are excited to be moving forward with this. We feel that the longevity and experience of the existing staff is a huge part of the success of the business. We appreciate the opportunity to continue providing year-round employment in our community that we care about so much, and we look forward to carrying on the legacy that Yuri Mindenbergs has built. Thank you for your vote in support of this lease assignment and extension.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing portion and bring it back to council. Any comments? Yes, Councilmember Wells.
So first, I want to say congratulations to the new buyers, and I am in full support. What I'm about to ask in no way reflects my excitement or for you guys to purchase this property. It's something that I have been speaking with a little bit about with administration on making some changes to leases, minor changes, and we hadn't been able to really get to it prior to your lease coming forward. So I have two questions. One is, on approval of the lease for the current buyers of the LLC, and I haven't seen your operating agreement, so I don't know if it already answers this in your LLC operating agreement, but, and maybe this is a question for administration, when a LLC or corporation or an individual entity signs a lease with the city, are they allowed, or could they take on outside investors or have new members join their LLC without bringing it forward to the council?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells. So these 4 individuals signed the lease documents. So those are the only ones that can do anything with the lease at all. If they wanted to bring somebody in or remove somebody from the lease, it has to be brought back before council to approve it. Okay. So that's from what I understand from the attorney from past things, like heaven forbid somebody deceased, they remove them, like we've got one coming up here next meeting. We remove it and add somebody. It has to come back before council at any time.
Perfect.
Yep.
And then, Mayor, thank you. And then my second question is after reviewing multiple city leases, and again, please don't think this has anything to do with your lease transfer, it's just that we haven't had a chance to discuss it yet. I was speaking with administration and requesting that for future city leases, that we have an amendment in there that states, it talks about, our current leases talk about ways to be in default of the lease, correct?
Correct.
And one of the things I was going to recommend before we made another lease transfer is that a lease could not be transferred to an entity who has a member who has been, within a certain amount of time, convicted of a violent crime. And so my question is do we feel, is that something, it seems to me that the city would not want to do business with a person who's within a certain amount of time been convicted of a violent crime, whether it is, all types of violent crime. And so I guess I'm asking administration, is that something that is feasible, positive for the city, and something that we could add to all new leases, including this one, if approved by council?
So so in a lease like tonight, we got a lease, so they've already agreed to what we have in writing already. So there'll be actually an attorney question on if that's legal or not. So I would think that we could, like we do with like the 3.8 we added, we can add it as we come back to a lease. If there's a change to a lease, we can add it at that time, like we've been doing to leases in, so it's something we can add to in the future, but we probably need to get the city attorney's take on it. But I don't think it's gonna, it should affect this lease because we can always bring it back or request them to bring it back. It just, I don't think it's gonna affect this lease, adding it tonight, I don't think it's gonna.
Go ahead.
A follow-up.
Go ahead.
For the buyers.
Yeah.
And to all 4 of you, and whoever wants to answer, or all 4 of you answer, do you think that it's out of line to add some type of verbiage to the city leases that states that anyone convicted of a violent crime within a certain amount of time, say within 5 years, should not hold a lease with the city?
I don't think they can.
Oh, they can't answer
suspend
that.
the rules.
You're right.
But it seems to me that this is something we should discuss at a future time.
Okay.
As when the whole body is here. I would like to discuss putting that on future leases. And we could always amend leases, but I don't
Correct.
think this is the moment
Yeah. We can always.
It's a good idea. I like the idea.
We can always amend a lease, like I said, when it comes back,
Right.
we can request the people that hold the lease, show them what we want to add to it, and then they can say, yes or no. But I'll bring it to the attorneys,
Yeah,
let him,
that's what we need
I'll
to
bring it to the attorney, let him figure it out, that way there, when we come down to this, we'll have the answers.
That's what we need to do, is
Yeah.
talk to the attorneys too. if
Thank you,
that's
Mayor.
all right.
Thank you, administration. Thank you.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as far as I know, there's no red flags with the city in terms of code violations with these potential buyers, which is really, it was seriously relief. Also, I was in Breeze Inn last week for the annual teacher retirement breakfast, great breakfast, and the staff I talked to was all very excited about this agreement. And I'm super excited that the locals want to buy it, and we really appreciate you guys stepping up. And I'm seriously, I think it's a win-win for all of us, so, great.
And I agree absolutely with what Councilmember Barnwell says. I also was at the retired teachers breakfast, and it was a great breakfast, and I talked to people, and I talk to people there all the time. So I think this is a very positive thing for Seward myself. Councilmember Finch.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm in support of this. I've talked a lot with the Breeze Inn staff, and I think Hank and them seen me down there a few times, talked with all of them, and they're very excited. I hope that excitement continues. I have one concern. I mean, everybody knows Duke's abilities and skills, and I just want to know, is there going to be any roof landing?
They're not planning.
Okay. Because I wouldn't put it past him.
Not in the plan.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Are we ready to vote? I believe we're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-096. Barnwell?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been passed and approved.
Congratulations. All right, that moves us to the next resolution for public hearing. It is Resolution 2023-097. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you please read that one?
Resolution 2023-097, approving lease amendment number 1 with the United States of America, acting by and through the Secretary of the Army.
Okay, and you'll find that on page 186 of the packet. I need a motion to approve and a second, please. Move to approve?
Yep.
Okay, Finch moved to approve?
I'll second.
And it's been seconded, moved and seconded. Administration.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the director at the Army Resort called and talked to me about requesting to change the, they wanted to add like a gym down below at the dispatch building, and then some rooms up above to additional things for the rec camp. So the rec camp is getting rid of their vessels, so not going to have any vessels. But because the way the lease was written, it was not allowed for anything else. So this is an amendment to the lease, working with the attorney and with the government, come up with what we have now before you tonight, to just allow that gym down below and then some rooms upstairs, but still in the future, if they decide to bring boats back, it can still be a dispatch building. So that's what it is, just an amendment to this lease to allow those two things, which is allowed in that zoning district.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2023-097. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed in? The massive stack of papers we have tonight.
Nobody has signed in for this one.
Okay, is there anyone out there that wants to speak to this resolution? I'm assuming no one's out in the hall. Okay, I'll close the public hearing then and bring it back to council. Any comments, questions? Seems pretty straightforward to me. I'm seeing nods. I think we're ready to vote on this.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-097. Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been passed and approved.
See how swiftly we can get through things. Next public hearing is Resolution 2023-098. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, this is a longer one to read.
Resolution 2023-098, approving the terms of the real property exchange agreement between the City of Seward and the U.S. Coast Guard for the sale of 1.576 acres of Lot 2A-1, Block 9, 4th of July subdivision, Seward Marine Industrial Center, Kenai Peninsula Borough, Coastal Lot Replat, Seward Recording District, 3rd Judicial District, State of Alaska, and a replacement lease agreement between the City of Seward and the United States Coast Guard for property at 1507 X Float Road, and authorizing the city manager to sign all documents required to complete the agreement.
Okay, and that is on page 234 of our huge packet. And I would need a motion to approve and a second, please. You guys are getting good at this.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-098.
Second.
Finch seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so thank you. So, you know, I've been working on this a very long time. We've actually come a long way since Senator Sullivan kind of put his foot down. So what ended up happening is, if you remember before, you guys authorized us to move forward with the sale of the property. So they were going to do it in payments. They're going to reduce it as the years went by. But the government can't do that, so it was a little bit of a change, and the attorney worked with their attorney to make things work. So they actually have to buy the land outright across the bay. That's that $480,600, and that was their appraisal. Ours was lower, so they took theirs, which was higher. And so this building on this side of the bay, on the northeast, will belong to the city, and they're actually going to lease that back from us. So we're making a little bit more money on the lease of the building. The land is separate. It's a separate lease, so because the monies come from two different parts of the government, the land lease is paid by one, and the building lease is paid by this FRC program they got going on. So that's what it's about. They were here a month ago. We took them around, showed them what was going on, and we moved forward, and now we'll bring it back for you so the city can move forward and get all the paperwork done and get the land transferred. And
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2023-098. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed up?
Nobody has signed in for this one.
I see a hand. Come on up. You can have 5 minutes if you need it, Bruce.
Let's see, road closure, 5 minutes.
We do need your name. And all that.
Bruce Joff, outside city limits. On my handout, I did have a comment on this, and I'll just read that to begin with. 2023-0298 has been a long time coming, and the efforts of the acting manager need special appreciation. Bringing the U.S. Coast Guard to Seward in this way is good for Seward and the nation. Senator Sullivan was here, and Merwin was here. I think both the harbor master, assistant city manager deserve a lot, and anyone else who met with Senator Sullivan and the delegation deserve a lot of credit. It's kind of an example of how personal relations can lead to something real. You all remember when we started 4th of July, we hoped for great things, and there were several years where it went south, but it's come back with a flourish. And I think that this first fast FRC, I think they call it, is critical for our city and our economy, but it's probably more significant to the nation. Geopolitics in the North Pacific, our fisheries are all served by a base in Seward, in an all-weather port, well-protected, defensible port like Seward. I expect that the Coast Guard and possibly the Navy will look even for further developments. That we had to sell land rather than lease it is a little unique, and of course land is valuable. So keeping an eye on all the activities and all the important things that will go on at 4th of July, at the SMIC development, including private and public Seward beaches, everything else. I think it's a project or an important thing for the harbor and for the city to keep their eye on. But this is a big step forward, and I can't say enough about having worked with Norm, or the harbor master with PACAB for all these years, and it's been an enjoyable and instructive with a successful culmination. Okay.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
That's good. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Okay, seeing no more, I'll bring it back to council. Is there any discussion, questions? comments? Any-
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add one more thing,
Yeah.
sorry. I think I mentioned it the last meeting, but for some folks that weren't there. So I think our facility will probably be done before a lot of the other facilities. The building, you see how long it took just for us to get this far. So the FRCs are going to be done prior to some of these facilities being done, and they asked us if we could support one or two more being moored here until their support facilities are done. And with that, they'll bring in more electrical infrastructure. And I said, well, where the Mustang is now, they can put one, and they could probably put another one across. So we actually might have two or three. They might not be here permanently, but we know we got one permanently, but some more vessels will be coming, so,
Thank you for that.
yeah.
Did you have something?
Yeah.
Oh, Councilmember Farmer.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. One, how big are these cutters compared to the Mustang?
The Mustang is 190, these are 275, and they have actually more crew. They have 28 crew, but the Mustang has 12. 13.
Substantial.
And then the other question I had was, I thought that building was going to be used by the city for something.
Correct. So when they move over to the new facility, then that becomes the city's. And they'll all be in the lease agreement that Brooks and government are drawing up. So as soon as they move over to SMIC, then that facility becomes ours. But they said they might need it if we have the second cutter, second FRC here. They might just keep it a little longer, but eventually it will be the city's.
Okay. And do you have a timeline on that?
So, longer than I thought, longer than I want, but they were talking about the FRC could be done in 2026, but it might be sooner now. But the building, once the land thing and the deed and everything goes through, they're already supposed to be coming in and start the work.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Finch.
I'd just like to say I like the idea of the Coast Guard purchasing the land over leasing it, because that shows some serious longevity in Seward, and I hope people look at it that way.
And I can add one more thing to that. So if for some reason the Coast Guard decide to leave Seward, they revert the land just back to us at no cost.
Fantastic. Okay, are we ready to vote? Ready to vote? We're ready to vote.
Okay. Voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-098. Finch.
Yes.
Barnwell.
Yes.
Wells.
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has passed and been approved.
Okay, and our final resolution requiring a public hearing, once again, is Resolution 2022-096. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, could you read that?
Resolution 2022-096, recommending Kenai Peninsula Borough approval of the preliminary right-of-way acquisition plat for the Seward Airport located in T1N and 1SR1W, Section 3435, 2 and 3, Seward Meridian, SW, that point known as the Seward Airport, physical location 2310 Airport Road, acquiring and replatting various legals located in Section 3435, 2 and 3, Seward Meridian, SW. Now, this resolution previously had public hearings and was postponed on September 12th, 2022, October 24th, 2022, and January 23rd, 2023.
Okay, and you'll find this on page 257 of the packet. Do I need a motion to approve since we've heard this before?
No,
It's on the floor, I believe.
It's on the floor. Okay, so before the public hearing, I'll ask administration to speak, and then we might,
Yes,
go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor, I would like to start saying, so this is just a preliminary replat. There's nothing to do with the sale of the land or anything right now. It gets us talking more about everything that needs to be done or whatever. It's just starting the process. No land sales or anything, and then Jason come up and give more detail, and I imagine somebody's going to talk about from the public hearing from the.
Right. Okay, so we'll hear from you, and yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so just, this started before I was here, but the way that happened is planning and zoning originally approved this preliminary replat, then it actually came, and some things were added at that time that were approved by city council, including bringing utilities, a fire hydrant, and there was an access, I believe, that was put as stipulations within that replat, but the borough kicked it back to us, and I think DOT had some issues because those things put on there did not work. for some of the funding, I believe, and some other pieces. So it went back to planning and zoning because they asked them to remove those stipulations, those 3 stipulations. Because again, this is just part of like having a conversation and getting some land, kind of an outline of some land so that we can begin planning. And so when it came back to approval here, it was just for approval of removing the hydrant, utilities, and access.
The path.
The path, yeah. Yeah, so that was why it was brought back here, is to just remove those pieces from that preliminary replat on the round 2.
And did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
And there were questions that we had, some of the council members who aren't here, and so we have a person
Correct.
here that can answer those questions. Could we, before the public hearing part, could we suspend the rules and have her come up and speak and answer those questions? Is that acceptable to council?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just remind me that we have to go back.
Okay, I will.
But
Okay.
we're suspending the rules right now, so you can come up and speak. And please tell us again who you are, just if they don't know.
Okay.
It's been a while.
I'm Joy Vaughn. I'm the project manager at DOT for the Seward Airport project. So.
Thank you.
Yes, when I was here in October, I believe, a couple of questions were asked. One of the questions was, would the project be able to move forward without the Tidelands parcel? And so the answer to that is the current project is not being physically constructed on the Tidelands parcel. However, the Tidelands parcel is needed for the runway protection zone and the southern aircraft approach to avoid ship obstructions. Embankment would be built on the Tideland parcel if the ultimate length of 4,000 feet is constructed in the future. The FAA also wants the airport to own the Tidelands for this project to protect the approach, and that's what they've told us. This other question was, if the Tidelands property is not acquired, how long could the new runway be without needing the Tidelands parcel? So we went back and modeled this and found out that in fact it couldn't be as long as the current north-south runway. That even the current north-south runway needs this protection of this approach. In fact, it would have to be 209 feet shorter than the existing to not need it. And as I said before, the FAA has asked us to acquire the parcel. And as was said earlier, this is not a land sale. This is merely a platting action to allow the discussion to happen, basically.
Thank you for clarifying that. Do we have questions for her? Since we've suspended the rules. Yes.
Yeah, I have a
Councilmember
few.
Barlow.
I don't know how far we want to get into this, but since you're the project engineer, I think it's great to have an opportunity just to ask a few questions.
Sure.
If for some reason we refuse to have this project completed in the city, for the city, what are the city's options at that point? The state still owns the runway, they would manage it, but we wouldn't have, would we still have, you would still be responsible for managing the airport?
I guess I'm not sure that I can answer that, because you're asking me what people above me's decisions would be. Right, so the state wants to maintain this airport. To maintain this airport, we have to get FAA money. They pay 96%. That's a pretty hefty part, right? The state match is very small. Without their assistance, we cannot even rehab what's out there, and it's pretty old. And as you heard earlier from Mr. Regis, there is a carrier that's expressing interest in having scheduled service, which I think is very exciting, and they have gave me permission to say that they have managed to get a better approach, and that would make that possible. It really wasn't possible for a carrier to have reliable service because of how high the decision height was above the runway. But now they've got a much better approach possible. And so I think for the future of Seward, I think it would be, obviously advantageous to get this fixed. And to do that, we have to be in cooperation with our federal partner, so.
Councilmember.
And just to be clear, when you say for this particular project that we're talking about, you won't be filling in the wetlands? So it's just an approach, so basically you might have some lighting in there, but you aren't going to actually backfill in the
There's
wetlands?
nothing planned to be put in the wetlands, nothing.
Okay.
The only thing that would be needed is if eventually it was, another project came along to make it longer.
Okay. And then, when you put the temporary dike in, but not you, but
Right.
it's DOT and that, is it your opinion as an engineer that it would, what would a permanent fix to say to that dike and preserve, or can we salvage the long runway with a serious dike in that river right now? What would that take?
I don't believe that is possible, because the actual situation is when the river is at flood level, it will go over anything that is below that level. And the FEMA firm, which knows the flood insurance rate maps, right, has across the main runway, right bisecting it, has what's called a floodway. And that's done by hydrologic studies. They decide where the bulk of the water wants to go when the water is that high. It wants to cross that runway. We did separate studies and discovered the same thing. The bulk of the flood, when the water is that high, wants to go over that runway. The only way you could, if you can even visualize it, change that would be to block that flow, right? Block that floodway. But we're not allowed to block that floodway. We're not allowed to add fill to a floodway by federal regulation unless we could prove that it wouldn't raise the flood anywhere. And in fact, trying to build a dike in that position, it would essentially be parallel to the existing long runway, right? Bisect right across that floodway here, runway here, right? You'd have to build it higher than the floodway, and we have modeled building the runway higher than the floodway and seen that we would, at places, increase flood level by 4 feet because of the backup of the river at that point. And of course, that creates the situation where, you know, more property upriver might get flooded because of it. So, yes, it's not really feasible to do that.
Sorry, I want to keep.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So that also means, that's the assumption that we keep the long runway. Would FAA approve of us? Eventually, we're not a town of the size that we can have. Is that what's happening here? Is FAA said you're a town so big or so much traffic, therefore you're not eligible for a longer runway? Is that why we're limited to the runway size that we're getting?
The runway size that you're getting, as far as you're talking about the extension of the current north-south runway to 3,300 feet, is that the question? Okay, yes. That's based on the aircraft that are using the runway. In fact, the FAA wrestled with us for a while over the size of that runway, and we were helped out by Kenai Aviation, because Kenai Aviation expressed interest to the FAA. Okay, otherwise we would be downsizing it. Okay, so, but yes, the answer is it's based on the operations existing and what is reasonably able to be forecasted. So at any point in the future, as operations increase, that'll increase those numbers, and then a forecast could possibly push it to a point where the FAA would extend the runway. But we're not there now.
Okay, just two more, sorry. Does this, so is it inherent that we're going to have fencing around this? Or do we know that yet?
We do not, the current plan is to have fencing along the north side and the west side, yes.
And we're absolutely having no public access in that. So how can we get on that far beach? There's no plan for that at this point, right?
The only, there is no legal access now.
To the beach.
Right, and that's part of the issue with what was asked for, was that the FAA is certainly not going to allow us to create a legal access to the beach when there's not one now. They consider it a hazard to aviation. There is access that is inherent to land law, that, like at low tide, somebody could boat to the beach and walk along it. That still, I believe, remains. I think James can tell me whether or not that's true, right? If somebody were to boat to the, James Sauerwein behind me is a project, right-of-way project coordinator, DOT, so. I believe it is true, James, that if the, at low tide, somebody can boat to that beach and they're, because of land law, able to walk along the beach during low tide. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but he's
No,
more,
it's-
he's the
we're
one that
okay
tells
about
me
him
these
answering.
things.
Yeah, go ahead. You can answer.
Short answer is yes. So it's inherent in the ownership of tidelands, whether they be owned by the state, the federal government, in very unique situations, or cities, that there is a right of the public to utilize those lands in Alaska, whether they be wet or drought and dry, but there is not an inherent right of access to those lands from the oceans. So if you went to the beach from the ocean, you can walk there.
Okay. Okay, other questions? Councilmember Finch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know there was talk earlier about the Iditarod Trail going through there, connecting. Is that, from a historical standpoint, is that capable of happening, or?
I don't think I know the answer to that
Yeah,
question.
you probably wouldn't know about that.
Right.
We can talk about that later. Okay, any other questions for her? Okay, then I'm going to go back, I'm going to unsuspend the rules. I'm going back on the
Thank you.
rules. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And did administration have anything else to say? I haven't opened public hearing yet, so.
No, Madam Mayor, just like to reiterate, just a preliminary replat, no land, that opens the discussion for everything.
Okay, so I'll open the public hearing now on Resolution 2022-096. Has anyone signed in, Mr. Clerk?
There's one person signed in, Shauna Pataki.
And we'll need your name and inside or outside. You waited a long time.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, my name's Shauna Pataki, and I'm a resident of Seward, and I live within city limits. Good evening to the city council members, to the city of Seward staff and community members, although many of them have already left. First, I want to thank you so much for your service to the community, for each of us, the residents, and for each other. We live in a remarkable and a special place, and together we can meet the needs of the moment, as well as keep this place special for the future. One of the things that I wanted to bring up for today and for your discussion, it does seem like it's vitally important to consider the resolution when you have all of your council members present and the new city manager. This is because it will give your decisions, even if this is just the replat in the beginning of a discussion, it will create that baseline understanding for everybody, as we know that there is so much more work and discussion ahead. And so everybody will have the same information as we go forward and can ask questions and get them answered. Over a long span of months, I've had the opportunity to share with city staff my interest in presenting to the city council a variety of options that can help inform future discussions regarding the airport, and which I believe can address concerns of the city, the Department of Transportation, and the residents of the community. I ask here during this comment period for the council
to consider providing me the opportunity to provide a presentation to you, to the council, the city manager, the city staff, and the community at a future date and within the 10-minute presentation time that's allowable within your agenda. My hope is that I can provide a variety of options for you to explore, which to date have not been discussed, yet are viable tools and resources for solving some of these exact types of situations. Although I've provided comments at previous meetings and submitted content for review, I believe that transitions within both staff and council may have afforded the opportunity to review these resources were missed, that those resources were missed. A presentation to the council would allow me to provide you with the resources in advance and then speak to them publicly and address any questions and provide follow-up. I thank you for your consideration of this in regards to the topic of the airport and for the future of our planning. In addition, I want to acknowledge and thank your dedicated staff, Shannon Thorne, Chris Peck, and Jason Bickling, for their responsiveness to my questions and inquiries, for their professionalism, and for their service to our community. You have an excellent staff.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else signed up? Mr. Clerk?
No
You
one
said
else
there
is
wasn't.
signed in.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this? Yeah, come on up first. You missed the window to get home anyway.
It's important to be here. Bruce Jaffa, outside the city limits. This is a long topic. I think some of you may know that I was part of the ad hoc committee that was developed to counter DOT's action at the airport. They did in fact have several alternatives. They chose this one. Our recommendation from that group to council was that they not choose this one. I understand that this particular action that you're dealing with is preliminary. It doesn't really cast anything in stone. There'll be further discussions and should be. It's exciting to hear that there are options available that we may not have looked at. I'd like to be as calm and direct as the previous speaker because there may be something there that hasn't been looked at. For a point of information, a C-130 aircraft needs about 3,500 feet to take off. In a combat role, they would use special techniques to get off quicker. But in a standard role, they come in here, they use Denny Hamilton to fill up, which is a great sales tax producer and good for him that has been missing. The current runway is configured by DOT at 3,300 feet would not provide that. What it would also do is eliminate access, legal or illegal, to about 100 acres of land. It would also designate about 80 acres of land back to the river. A little earlier, we had the delegation from Obihiro here. And I can tell you, in traveling through Japan, there are similar rivers all through Japan that have been corralled, contained, continue their flow. So when DOT or anybody else says it can't be done, it's not true. It can be done. It's not easy. Getting FEMA or the floodplain to change their rules, that's not easy, but it can be done. And quite frankly, if the Secretary of the Navy wanted to bring 130s in here, he'd get it done. So it can be done, and DOT is selling the same stuff they've been selling for years. They're stuck with the rules. They have to work with the federal FAA. And with that, I tried to be peaceful tonight, and this small sentence, I'll just read this and go. The Seward Airport. The preliminary action will only move the discussion along. Do not forget how DOT has taken advantage of Seward with our changes in city managers, skewed reports, ignorance of users and potential users, lack of vision and forethought. The passing of the action cannot and must not be construed as support of their tactics. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up.
Get sleepy at all these meetings. Tim McDonald, Inside City Limits. With this airport, we're talking about quality of life here. You know, I mean, if we ever get the wish that a lot of people have to get these bigger jets in here, we're gonna be hating life. We're in a bowl, sound reverberates, we won't be able to get away from it. I don't think it's a good long-term plan to expand the airport myself. If we want that type of airport, we should look elsewhere. There's land north that is potentially could be used for that, but not here. And also the access, you know, the runway when you go out on the beach is, I'm not sure, but it appears to be 25 feet high at least, all of riprap built up on the out of the runway. And whether it's legal or not, we've always traditionally had access to that beach. And I think one citizen in the citizens' comments at the start of the meeting mentioned about access and getting in there. And they were on I made a presentation for a baseline trail which intersects the airport runway and then would come down the river and bridge across in front of it so that we would have another access, even if it's only pedestrian and horses or something, and not motorized across the estuary. And it's an ambitious project, but I mean, we're a one-horse town. We need anything we can get. We've got one road divided by 3 bridges in and out. I mean, we need an access road out to Hermelier Highway or whatever they call it now, and something like that too. Not that it's going to make a good emergency escape route, but it is, again, quality of life. You know, this is something that people could walk out across there, you know, and it's quite a walk, so it's not for everybody. But you're talking 1.5 miles approximately from just before the airport at the end of Port Avenue across through to the Iditarod Trail, which coincidentally crosses my property on the base line and the city limits line, the same thing. So, you know, maybe that's not up in the air in the minute, but I'm very adamant as a longtime Sewardite that for quality of life, we need to maintain public access to those beaches. There's no reason that they have to cut it off on Port Avenue. They've got plenty of security gating along the fence. We don't have to. The north side can be outside the secure zone, and we should put in a parking lot so people can drive down there, park, and access that beach, and eventually have that trail across there to the Iditarod. That is the original route of the Iditarod. They went across there in the winter and hooked up and went all the way north. So, you know, and I also, the former speaker, you know, saying it can be done. I believe that also. I mean, you know, they're saying that if we sheet pile that thing and stop all the flood there, which is fairly easy to do, it might cost a few bucks, but you can sheet pile that whole runway on that riverside and let those sheet pile be the riverbank, run them right up to the runway level or raise it a foot. And there's nothing to flood. They're saying it might flood upriver. I mean, the only flood area there is the dump and all that area on the other side of the border. So flooding is really not much of an issue there. All the, you know, any residences or whatnot are on the north side of the river and wouldn't be subject to flooding if it backs up there. So hydrologically, I don't think it's that much of a threat. But there is a big threat to the quality of life in the city of Seward. Everybody, it seems like all the citizens are short-sighted. Nobody's thinking 10 or 20 years down the road what a mess it's going to be if we make the wrong decisions. And it's very important. We've always had it. It used to be nice sand dunes out there and whatnot. And we didn't, you know, you could wade the river if you go down on the tide flats where it's real shallow. You know, the river channel's right there, but it spreads out, and you could go down below and you could walk all the way across and go as far as you wanted out on the beach, all the way over to Nash Road on the other side if you wanted, tide permitting. So it's a big asset, it's underutilized, it's also a world-class destination for, you know, in the spring and fall. It's a flyway for all the geese and other big birds and stuff, sandhill cranes, everything come through there both ways, spring and fall. They'll be coming through here shortly in a couple weeks. And so, you know, it's a big draw for tourists, it's non-invasive, you know, keep them on the trails, blah, blah, blah. We need to preserve public access there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this? Come on, Carol.
Carol Griswold, Inside City Limits. I'm disappointed to see that not much has changed since last year. Parcel 4, a sliver of the privately owned parcel, was acquired in June of 2022 with the remainder of the larger parcel, yet it is still shown as a sliver. The 25-acre parcel 5 is shown as a fee acquisition property, although the public and council have voiced opposition and have not yet agreed to sell it, lease it, or consider a right-of-way easement. The municipal land management plan recommends the city retain ownership of this parcel and continue the lease. The $20,000 payment DOT offered is a pittance based on no sales in the past 10 years and a 10-year comparison report that ended in 2020. The sales comparables range from 6 to 19 years old. Since the appraisal's effective date of value on June 16, 2021, local property values soared. This is a valuable public land. As noted many times, Parcel 5 includes a significant fiber optic cable lease that still has not been adequately addressed. DOT found it difficult to determine the exact path of the fiber optic cables. Why not ask the fiber optic cable companies? Surely they know. The lease map shows it going right through Parcel 5. The lease is still current, and the assessed land value in 2019 for 10.52 acres was $106,200. Is the city willing to sell this lease with Parcel 5 and lose the annual income? DOT stated that Parcel 5 was needed if the city wanted to extend the runway to 4,000 feet in the future. The relocated short runway design already extends into the wetlands and pond, disrupting the entire salt marsh ecosystem. Extending it farther will cut into the protective beach grass barrier, block salmon passage, eliminate the Arctic tern colony, and harm many other species. Regular commercial traffic, including small jets and large prop planes, will bring not only more visitors, but constant noise to our relatively quiet skies and impact our quality of life. Visit Homer to appreciate our peace. This is a terrible price to pay to accommodate people in a hurry with other options of sea, rail, and highway. The public has not yet had a chance to consider or participate in this decision. As noted at numerous public hearings and town hall meetings, DOT has refused to work with other federal agencies such as the U.S. Geological Survey to expand their options outside their boundary, including moving the river channel away from the long runway. The resulting alternative 2.2 has many disadvantages and few advantages. On page 270, note the removal of all trees, shrubs, and other vegetation down to bare mineral soil around the small pond and wetlands, the cutting of trees on all of the former Civil Air Patrol property, and clear cutting of the protective woods south of the apron, all in wetlands. The plan is an environmental disaster. The plat should note that the existing 24-acre aviation and hazard easement south of the long runway 1331 should be required to revert back to the city after the long runway is abandoned. No supporting documentation was provided for a lease or permit for the existing aviation and hazard easement north of the highway, labeled Track 2 Parcel A, and on the highway on page 265 and 266. This is not on DO property. Should these be deleted from the preliminary plat? The site of the relocated short runway 1634 is not shown. The misspelling of aviation in all the preliminary plat sheet keys should be corrected. As stated in all my previous comments, this preliminary plat is still not ready. The right-of-way acquisition agreement of parcel 5 as a sale, lease, or easement has not been decided. Please postpone this resolution until the errors are corrected and the fiber optic lease and disposition of public land is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Yes?
Becky Dunn, Inside the City, and I would just echo what Carol just said, and Bruce Jaffa, and ask you not to sign this. For all the reasons that they both said. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, last chance. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Comments? Councilmember Wells.
I would like to ask administration to address some of the citizens' comments for us.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Mayor, so the fiber, Jason come up there about the fiber optics cable. I know that was a big discussion, and then we got the numbers from the fiber optics cable company, and Jason can talk to that.
But yeah, just to also know that the fiber optic cable is not part of the replat, the preliminary replat that we're talking about right now, so I just want to make sure we're looking at the two different pieces. That would be in a future type of situation where we would have to look at if they were acquiring that or looking at extra land out there, then we would have conversations about that easement that the fiber optic cable does cut into, and then it goes out, way out deep into the ocean. So that would be obviously something that would need to be resolved in the future, for sure. So.
Any other questions for Jason?
No, thank you,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, thanks, Jason. Then. So I have a question for Mr. Regis again. Please tell us again if we vote yes on this, what are we committing to? On this specific resolution? Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, okay.
I've been stating it all, it's just a preliminary replat. It opens up the conversations for all these questions that were asked this evening.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. And do you, Jason, agree with that? I mean, that's...
Correct, yeah, and then it removes some of the stipulations that were put on there that they said can't be on there, and we already checked the fire hydrant with the fire department, like we've already gone through, and it's okay if the things that were asked to be removed are removed. Planning and zoning did approve that already.
So if we vote yes on this, this will go to the Borough Planning Commission to have the plat discussed by them. And that's going to take a while. Okay. So, and then eventually, something will come back to us about what's to do about our airport, right? So this is just the preliminary step to begin a discussion about what we've been discussing in the greater context all along. Is that correct?
Correct.
I said that weird, but okay, you got it? Okay. I just need that really clarified. So we're not signing away our rights, we're not selling the land, we're not doing anything but just a replat, like as if you were doing it on your own property or something.
Preliminary, opens up all the discussions.
Right, okay. I just wanted that really emphasized to us tonight. Okay, thank you. Any other, yes, Councilmember Wells?
Yep, so I'd like to state that I really appreciate all the citizens' comments on this. I know how important this is, and I do agree with the quality of life, and that can be taken two different ways. Some people may find the sound and noise to not be part of quality of life. Other people may find it to be pro-quality of life. And if all we're doing is opening this up for conversation, then that is exactly what I believe all of the citizens' comments want. The citizens want the opportunity to be able to be a part of this, discuss every avenue, but until we have the preliminary plat, right?
Correct.
We can't move, we can't even open this up for discussion, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Are we ready to vote on this? I'm seeing nods. Mr. Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Okay, voting on the approval of Resolution 2022-026. Finch.
Yes.
Barnwell.
Yes.
Wells.
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been passed and approved.
Okay, thank you. Whoa. Okay, that brings us to one last item, action memorandum 2023-013. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, could you read that, please?
Action Memorandum 2023-013, approving the City of Seward 2024 legislative priorities and congressionally designated spending list.
Okay, and this is on page 271 of the packet, beginning there. And this is not a public hearing item, so I don't have to worry about that. So, let's see, start with administration, I guess. What you got to say about it?
Madam Mayor, I'll let Stephen talk to it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple things that this action memorandum will do. It will establish, first and foremost, the city's 2024 legislative priorities, which will be used for the basis for the, I'm going to call it the guide, of which the 2023 document is listed starting on page 275 of the packet. So that's first and foremost. And then secondly, from that priority list, we need to select 3 to 5 CDS, congressionally designated spending items, and those will be used, especially in Washington, D.C. when the delegation goes to visit. Administration sent this preliminary list to council 2 months ago? I want to say something like that. And this is definitely not something that we wanted on the consent agenda. We want council to talk about it, add, subtract, multiply, divide, hash it out. It's a very important list. And I think there was some commentary, had a couple meetings with members of the public over the last couple weeks about this. The list that administration brought forward that's on page 272, we put together this list of quite a while ago. And the Port and Commerce Advisory Board took this up, I want to say during their last meeting of the year, which was back in May. Their list is nearly identical. There is one additional item on page 297, and that is the inclusion of the recreation center. Administration didn't negate that item, remove that item, or omit it for any specific reason. We put together our suggested list, and then independently, Port and Commerce Advisory Board took up the list and came up with almost the same items. Like I said, they did come up with, adding the recreation center. Administration is not saying that that's not an important project, but again, we want council to have a discussion about our key priority items. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
How would it destroy anything if we set this off for 2 weeks so that the rest of the council can weigh in a public setting?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, it wouldn't. We're bringing this to you. Traditionally, we brought this to you much later in the year. That, I would say, delaying it one meeting is absolutely not a big deal. If we could have the list finalized by September 11th, that would really be beneficial, because especially if council decides to add a project that we don't have numbers for or a project scope, it could take a couple weeks. After you give us the list, we're going to generate a forecasted dollar amount associated with the project, a project description, and then we're going to start working with the graphics designer on putting the guide together. The governor's office last year requested that we have this available by December, and we have to have this in print before the delegation goes to Juneau. So if we could have this by the middle of September, that would really be beneficial.
The plan was to have 5 of us here tonight.
Okay.
That would have been, to me, adequate. But I feel, because we can't talk amongst each other about this, that I would really, I'll make a motion and see where it goes, I guess, but go ahead.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just like I want to think, so this guide, when we went to DC early this year, the guide was really instrumental. They looked at the guide and they could see what we got going on, and it was really good, and we got a lot of great reports about our guide. So I think if we do it right and get her done, but get it done in time. That's a big thing, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the others would feel, but I would make a motion, I would move to postpone this discussion to the September 11th meeting.
I'll second.
Finalize it then. we've already discussed that, I guess, but if that's okay. I hate to do that, but I just really feel that the others need to chime in. And for all sorts of circumstances, we're missing 3 people tonight, and some of them are wonderfully bad. So, can we vote on postponement? Okay, Mr. Clerk, would you want to postpone?
Okay, voting to postpone action memorandum 2023-013 to the September 11th meeting. Wells?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that action memo has been postponed.
I just feel like remember how Mayor Squires used to put a can up here and talk about kicking the can down the road, but this is, I mean, I think it's a legitimate reason to postpone this. I don't normally do that. Okay, so that having been done, that brings us now to citizen comments. At the end of the meeting, you get 5 minutes for these comments. Are there any people that are still around that wish to speak? You don't have to take the whole 5 minutes. Come on up. I'm just saying that, just in case. It's been a long day.
Well, I think the
Oh,
vote...
we need your name
Oh,
again, for the record.
sorry, excuse me, Mayor, it has been a long night. Tim McDonald, inside city limits, born and raised, 50-year resident. I think the sale of our utility is first and foremost in everybody's mind, not just the residents of Seward, but also all our customers, all 1,800 of them. You know that everybody, of course, wants lower rates and everything like that, and the boogeyman's going to get us if we don't sell, but real energy security comes from making our energy in Seward, because it doesn't matter which option we choose that are put before us at the moment, whether it's Homer Electric or whether it's Chugach, it still comes over power lines for dozens and dozens of miles and is subject to all the usual flooding, earthquakes, forest fires, etc. And they've all had their day in the past where they took stuff out, so we know what happens. You know, we're on the ring of fire. We're sitting on one of the biggest earthquake belts in the world. And we really do have a future as an alternative energy center. I mean, we could be exporting it. The stuff that's coming on is mind-bending, you know, actually wave-bending. They've got it now where you just float a platform on the water, you know, and it's got lever, and the wave, you know, it's a segmented platform, and the waves as they come in, even gentle ones, the platform's moving up and down, and the levers that connect it to the center bar are clicking and making electricity. I mean, and there's dozens of more ways that are just as inventive of that. They're just popping them out faster than we can. And of course, the very biggest one that's been dropped in our lap, which everybody is afraid to even talk about or consider, is the second tunnel through the mountain, which is the greatest alternative energy opportunity that we've ever been offered, and that will be the biggest fools in the world if we don't do something about it. That could power Seward alone, that tunnel. As I said, they're coming out with micro reactors now that are 10 feet long, 4 foot in diameter, and you refuel once every 8 years. You can forecast your energy usage and your cost 8 years in advance. And then when you're ready to plug it in, they're going to tell you how much it's cost, and you forecast them for another 8 years. And as a good friend of mine has pointed out, nuclear energy is not the end-all. It is the ultimate non-renewable energy, as is oil. In other words, once you use up all the nuclear energy from the earth, it's gone, or it gets scarce. But wind, wave, sunlight, all kinds of hydro, we have it in spades. We just haven't invested in it because we're too spoiled. Energy was too cheap, and we're too lazy, and nobody looks to the future. Nobody thinks in 10-year cycles. Everybody's thinking in 1 or 2 year cycles. It doesn't work. We're shooting ourselves in the foot, and now we're selling something we've had for 85 years. We've paid for it dozens of times, and in the past, it's made the city tons of money, but for now, some reason, it's a money sink. As I said, let's reset. Let's give the people a chance. We can do it ourselves through a co-op, and with the city's help, you could help us as our mentor partner, do all the things that the city hasn't been able to do by itself. And a lot of it is because of the city's management structure. You're not situated to do new and innovative things. You guys are situated to keep things running as they are. And that's good sometimes, but it's a problem when you're planning for the future. And we deserve it. We could make it. The financials could be the same. We could owe you $25 million, which is the most you could sell it for. 2% interest for 25 years and a lump payout of the $25 million. You got a mortgage, that's $500,000 a year. 2% on that, 2% plus the fees. And then you could sponsor this, getting state, federal, and local grants and loans and other things to do this alternative energy and make Seward an alternative energy powerhouse along with everything else. Seward has a lot of gifts, and an excess of alternative energy opportunities is one of them. And we're fools if we don't look at the future and start planning for it now. And I hope you all will join me with seeing this vision and working for it. You guys have the opportunity to do the right thing right now. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Come on up, please.
Bruce Jaffa, outside the city limits. I would like to pledge myself to support the incoming city manager and thank all those who participated in the administration up to now. I don't know what I can do as a non-resident. I do sit on PACAB, but I do have a lot of activity in Seward, and I'm really excited about where we can go with new enthusiasm, a fresh look, and supporting someone who I think is a team builder. So in that regard, I'm very upbeat on the future. I'm probably one of the few people in here who's actually worked in the nuclear industry. When I was a young man in Seattle, we built stuff for Hanford. Actually, it was in Seattle. We shipped it over there. I didn't know what I was building, but I had to have security clearance. Later, I've worked at Fort Greely, which is the only nuclear reactor in Alaska, although it was put in a sarcophagus and encapsulated in concrete. And it's currently being removed. But at Eielson Air Force Base, where our company is currently rebuilding a coal boiler, they intend to build a 33.5 megawatt mini nuke, which sits on a flatbed truck. That's how big it is. There are a lot of the problems before with cooling and things like that generated a lot of wastewater that they've gotten away from. So Mr. McDonald is correct. There is an interesting potential with nuclear energy. Whether it's right for Seward or not, I don't know. This is kind of a small valley, and whether we'd want to park one here, I don't know. But there are alternatives, and we can look at those. And there's no reason not to look at them. But I'm not entirely sure that it should be council or the city itself. The government is best when it lets private industry unleashed. And if a government can remove some of the obstacles or promote some things, sometimes it needs a little bit of promotion, like the housing issue. The council has done a lot of work, and administration and P&Z and everyone has done a lot of work to help develop housing. It's not the end. There's going to be more. And I wish I had a silver bullet to be able to solve the housing issues. I grew up in areas where there were huge waves of housing developments. They had low-cost housing. They had block housing. Every house was a fourplex, essentially, and they were cookie cutters all the way down the street, done by one builder. It wasn't done by the city. It was done by somebody who wanted to make money. So ultimately, everything that we do in town the city utility, the city, if we sell it or not, it should be designed to what is going to make the future better. And egos aside, a real discussion with all the things on the table, and we haven't had all the things on the table. We have been looking at things and trying to parse those things into a particular view. There are other things that be considered. And in the near future, I think some of those will become obvious and apparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Kat Sorensen and I live inside the city limits. I want to thank the Opie Hero delegation for coming again. I had dinner with them tonight and it was really awesome to learn from them and talk with all of the different people coming over. And I want to give a big thank you to Jody, Chris, Karen at the clerk's office and Karen at the chamber, because I spent the afternoon hanging out a little bit and I was exhausted, so I could only imagine how tired they are from planning, organizing, and being on hand for all of that. And then a quick reminder to all the public out there, something that I didn't realize is that the deadline to register to vote for the October 3rd election is on September 1st in person at the clerk's office or September 3rd online. So be sure to go out and register to vote if you are able to or if your address has changed. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Yes.
Becky Dunn, inside the city limits. I'm here to recap on what I said earlier, and I want to put focus on the part where the victim is asked to drive themselves to Kenai or Anchorage. On the drive yourself part, or it's probably approached more like, do you have a family member or somebody that can drive you, or a boss? Walked around the police department. We have like 12 cop cars out there. 3 of them or 4 of them have the logo scraped off, and they're obviously older vehicles. Why don't we sell them and help the hospital buy that equipment, or find a retired cop or somebody that isn't want to be full-time but would pitch in to drive. And Chief is right, it does take a team. It's called a SART team, and there is a STAR advocate, one from the booklet, or an advocate, and a sexual assault nurse examiner, the SANE nurse, and law enforcement. So we got the law enforcement down, and we really need to find out what it would take to get that equipment here. And if there is somebody in Seward that is a SANE nurse, to come forward, or if there's anybody that wants to be trained into that. I haven't seen any numbers on what the equipment cost or what the training entails, but one of the people I talked to today said that you can do most of it online, and it's extensive. She said, but it just seems like every community I talked to was shocked that we don't have this in Seward. And I'm sorry if I missed, Stephen was going to check with the hospital. Did you give a speech when I don't know if there was a speech missed or a report when I received a phone call during the meeting, but I was interested to find out how that phone call went. And we do need a real discussion with the, maybe bring in the Seward Prevention Coalition, the Seaview, the Seward Community Foundation, troopers, cops. We have a new hospital coming in, that big one. They might be able to do rape kits, because that's going to be a huge, huge hospital. And I'd like to have every clinic, from Brent Ursel, and clear to here, Seward, to be included in the conversation. It really needs to happen. We're really dropping the ball, and I just feel like everybody's kind of passing the ball around. So conversation needs to be, a real discussion needs to happen. And there's a couple of new things that have happened with rape kits. I'm not sure if people know, but if you're raped and you're not sure if you want to press charges, you feel guilty or shame or whatever the reason you're not comfortable talking to somebody, you can go get a rape kit done. They freeze it, they put a barcode on it with your name on it. officers are not notified, and when you want to press charges, maybe you find out the same person did this to somebody else, then you can press charges at that time. I'm not sure, I do not remember how long all that evidence can remain in the freezer. There's just a lot of things that I've learned from talking to people, and I've also had more people reach out to me with problems or issues or horror stories that have happened in Seward. So I just want to make you aware that there is, people say, well, there's just been 2 cases, well, there's 2 in the last few months I know of, and, even one case getting dropped, or this doesn't happen enough, and one community I talked to, it happened once this year, and they had it covered. So I'd just like to open up a discussion and find out what is, we need a solution for this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, I'll bring it to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments. I'll start with administration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I want to thank everybody that spoke tonight on all the agendas, items on the agenda. I want to thank the Over Hero delegation for traveling this far and visiting the town. I know we're going to be taking them around tomorrow and show them our city infrastructure. And I also want to congratulate all the individuals that will be going to Over Hero. So.
Thank you. And Assistant City Manager Sol.
I have nothing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I'll start with Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah. I'll be gone next week, next meeting, so I'm on vacation, but I'm not sure how long, or assistant manager, how many more meetings are there?
This is my last night.
Oh. Well, I want to personally, I think from all of us, just, this city has you've done us a great favor, and we're really going to miss you. I really appreciate all the work. I think I've walked into this position, you've been a huge help for me, so thanks a lot for your work and your dedication to this town. Good luck in the future. I want to say thanks to Casey Warner with Hyper and the Sewer Prevention Coalition. They did an excellent presentation on daycare today, so thank you very much. Update from Rob Montgomery and Brian Paul was helpful. And to the Over Hero delegation, Jody, Chris, Karen, and Karen Chamber, we call her now. They've done a fantastic job kind of rebuilding this. It's been, 5 years since it's happened, and there's not a lot of institutional knowledge. We've all been just grabbing what Cat Sorensen helped do, and we've all been just trying to pull this together, and just really thanks to you guys for putting all that work into it, particularly the city workers and Karen lately. And I'm really excited with 15 people going to Over Hero. I think from Seward, I think it's just going to be really, really cool. And yeah, it's going to be fun. And 55 years, that's a long haul, so it's pretty cool to continue that. Thank you.
Councilmember Wells.
Yes. So I'll echo everything that Councilmember Barnwell just said, including you are going to be greatly missed, and you are a major asset for the community, and I know that whomever you go to work for or wherever you go, you'll continue to be an asset and an outstanding member of that community, and you're definitely going to be missed. And I'm going to miss fishing with you, so wherever it is that you go, let me know so that, I'll come fish down there. To the citizens' comments, first, we had a citizen comment that why hasn't the council, and this comment has come up multiple times, made it so that people outside the city can vote for the utility. And I don't know how many times we said this, but we can't. We cannot do that. We've spoke with the city attorney multiple times, and that is just not something that we can do. Also, I'd like to agree with Mr. McDonald as far as a co-op goes. HEA is a co-op, so hence one of the major reasons why I'm in support of the sale to HEA. If the sale does not go through to HEA and Mr. McDonald and others want to put together a co-op, I think that, and bring some presentations to the city, I think that's a great idea, but it's not something that the council can put together. I also agree with something Mr. Jaffa said when he said the government needs to get out of the way for the private sector and for growth, and I agree. Another reason why I support the sale to HEA. I asked our citizens, when it comes to the sale, utility sale, something I brought up tonight was how important it is that if we sell this utility, that we sell it to an entity where Seward has a voice. And it was brought up at a couple meetings. Chugach offered us the opportunity to participate in the election so that we could have a seat on that board. What they didn't tell the community is how many millions of dollars are spent by outside businesses and individuals to get seats elected to their board. And the chance of anyone in Seward ever getting elected to their board, in my opinion, is zero. Whereas with HEA, and you heard it from our administration and from one of our key employees who's been with us for 10 years, if the utility was to sell, what a major asset it would be and how important it would be for the city to have somebody on the board with whatever utility purchases the Seward utility, and how important that would be. And HEA not only is willing to change and add the city of Seward as another area, we would have that opportunity to be on that board, and there's no outside money being spent to see who gets to push individual or corporate ambitions. So again, I'm all about the HEA, and remember that it is a co-op. So thank you very much to all the citizens' comments, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week.
Okay, Councilmember Finch.
I'd like to echo everything they both said, and Steve and I agree you will be missed. I've enjoyed working with you. You're quick on the spot on stuff that I needed. I appreciate it. I agree with Councilmember Wells about HEA. Please, I wish people would go to Cooper Landing and see how long Chugach left them out in the dark for 3 days because they were trying to get our guys to go do it because their guys would come down. I'd like to congratulate the Breeze Inn staff. I know they're pretty happy with tonight's results. Congratulations to all that applied to go to Obihiro. I appreciate the presentation, but this week I had the honor and the pleasure of taking all the Obihiro delegates out shooting, and I've taken a lot of people in my life out, and I have never seen such excitement and energy, and on top of that, self-control. It was quite funny. The youngest one of them all, I've never seen anybody grin that big, never on a gun. And Chris, the interpreter, came up to me, and one of the smaller, meeker ladies, they all thought that she would be intimidated, and she was on everything. So, and it was nice to do an American tradition of ladies go first, all their eyes lit up, and they all jumped up there to get on the line. It was quite entertaining. And I'm getting videos from Karen, and they're quite neat to watch. I appreciate it. That was a very nice honor and pleasure to see that energy and excitement. So we might have to look forward to that down the road, because I can grow that a lot bigger.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot's been said. First of all, yes, Stephen, I'll miss you intensely. People come and people go in Seward, and that's something we deal with on a daily basis, it seems. We offered some interesting contrasts to the delegation, shooting guns and going to the museum for Founders Day and listening to me play the pump organ. They really liked that, you know, so we have different things. This was really fun for me being with these folks. I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm just going to point out that if citizens aren't aware, anybody can come and make a presentation to council. The way this works is you contact the clerk and you can get scheduled in. They're 10-minute presentations, And there are only 2 allowed per meeting, so there may be a scheduling thing, but people can come and present things to council. So it's an option. I wanted to say that. Let's see, there was more. I'm assuming that the public is aware at this point that my oldest best friend, Lee Pileski, passed away this month. And there will be the paper will have something this week about that. And if you didn't hear, it was because the family wasn't quite ready to put anything out yet. So we held on to this. But what we're going to do as the Historical Society and Trailblazers also joining, we're having a sort of a get-together celebration of life in the community room on September 14th. And it just snacks, it'll be 7 p.m., it'll be advertised widely, just to come and sit around and swap Lee stories, and we have a lot of stories. I also am making the announcement now to the public that I was being groomed to continue the cemetery tours, and I will continue that September 21st, and I already have a sidekick to join me. I may not be as dramatic as Lee, and all that, but we already had a preliminary plan for next year, and I will continue that because that's my purpose in life now. And let's see, what else? I think that was the main thing. Tonight was a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of us are tired. Some people drove frantically to get here, and I played a couple hours on the pump organ. If you haven't played a pump organ, it's a little exhausting in itself. So we're all tired, and I think it's probably time to adjourn the meeting at 9:37.